Hello, everyone. I'm Samir Prince, and this is Path to the Pros, a series of video sessions where we sit down with some of the most talented and successful execs in sports entertainment, learning about how they've got to where they are and what it takes to become a pro in their field. Today, I'm sat with Sean Singletary, Senior Vice President of Brand Consulting with CSM Sports. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, kicking off with a question I always like to start these things with. Taking us back to the start, Sean, how did you first get into sports?
Oh wow, do you want the short version or the long version?
Let's go short to start off with.
Okay. So I always played sports when I was growing up. I played up until I'll say my sophomore year of college, football that is, and I was just always passionate about it, right? It was a time that you really got to bring the camaraderie of your teammates and just, that rush that you get when you do something well together, and the competition. So I always loved sports from that angle. I also like just the involvement of the crowd, right? Just seeing how the people really gravitated and supported the sport or supported their favorite team. It was just that energy that I always loved, and I was hoping that I could be able to work in a field where I'll get to experience that on a consistent basis.
Nice. And how did you go from kind of that transition then from, personally being involved from an athlete perspective to then finding a path in the industry through the business side?
Yeah, it was actually kind of a long journey, right? So once I graduated from school, I started throwing my own events. So I was throwing
Okay.
concerts, parties, fashion shows, and I was working with Big Sean back in the day. And so like I was able to experience like, all this excitement, but I just didn't know how to like turn it into a career per se. And so I went down the path to potentially become an agent, got into law school, but didn't go to law school. Went over to JP Morgan Chase and started working on some of their sports programs and really started to enjoy just the type of programs and just the experience that we're providing our card holders and different members of Chase. And so I was just like, look, I want to work more directly in it versus just kind of being an outside brand that would have, events here and there. So after 2 grueling years of trying to, knock on the door and get somebody to answer, I finally did when I transitioned from JP Morgan over to Spectra, which is now OVG.
Okay. Nice. And you've had from my perspective anyway, a career path that's been somewhat different to most. Not many people start their career in financial services and find their way in sports entertainment, especially, leading brand consulting for a well-renowned agency in CSM. And what have you learned and what have you kind of taken from that financial services world that has been transferable and has really helped you in your job today?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, right? So first, learning how to think like a brand and truly meaning that, right? Like how do you think about a brand? And so being able to empathize with those either brand managers or those partnership managers on the brand side, you understand how they think. I also would say that learning the true budget processing and all the internal processes that a lot of marketing managers or just corporate individuals have to go through to get initiatives approved. Once you have like that empathy, you can kind of ride along the journey with them and kind of provide supporting information because you've been in their shoes before. And then finally, I think the biggest thing is learning how to think about it from a true 360-degree standpoint. Oftentimes, one of the things I see within the industry is that those individuals who are working, whether it's for a team or for an agency, you only think about your contact from a sports marketing experiential standpoint, but not understand the true marketing mix and what other channels and what are the real objectives in these other areas, and how sports fits into that. I think that me having that mindset helps me when I communicate with potential clients or current clients, et cetera.
Yeah, it's very unique. You typically tend to find it the other way around in the sense that people probably start their careers in sports and then, go and work brand side. But if you've got that understanding of what it's like being on the other side of the table, and you're in the position of selling or of trying to come up with a creative solution, then you understand how that kind of thought process works, which I guess is pretty unique. As a result of, I guess, that understanding, Sean, what have been some of your, achievements, whether it be through Horizon or CSM or even before that?
Yeah, one of my biggest achievements, I would say, just from a tangible standpoint, is being a co-founder of the Michael B. Jordan Legacy Classic. I did that at Scout, Horizon, or what have you, and it was an initiative used to really bring awareness to Black excellence in HBCUs. And as you can imagine, there's a ton of different initiatives, especially after the wake of George Floyd, where HBCUs have been highlighted and they've been getting the proper attention. And so being a part of an initiative like that, where you're really setting something groundbreaking, you're working with a major star within Michael B. Jordan, and seeing his heart and his effort, and coming up with programming that is unique to that community, and that's going to really give them the platform to propel themselves. I think that was a huge achievement. I'll say from an intangible standpoint, it's accepting and recognizing my strengths and weaknesses. I think oftentimes we battle with what we're good at and what we're not good at, and oftentimes you kind of like hang on the weaknesses, right? So instead of doing that, just know where your strengths are, say that you're going to work on your weaknesses, or accept that those things you might not be good at. So I think that's a pretty good intangible. And I'll also say recognizing my purpose. Throughout my career, it wasn't always just clear what I was supposed to be doing, or where I can be a benefit for somebody. 20 years from now, what are people going to say once you're not working, or once you leave the industry? And so I think really recognizing my purpose, which I feel is to help those who may not get these opportunities to work in such a great industry, helping those individuals succeed and find their career footing or what have you.
Nice. I think super important part of that, especially that purpose piece. What can you leave behind? What footprint have you left in the industry, rather than just, I closed this major deal, or I was working for a major team. It's what have you actually left behind that actually, you can
Yeah.
tangibly say actually means something to not just you, but to, to others as well. And talk to us a bit more about that, Sean, because you're involved in a lot of initiatives, knowing you personally, to improve D&I across the industry. Can you tell us a bit more about some of those initiatives that you're involved in?
Absolutely. So, part of a group called BCP. It's called Black Corporate Partnerships, and it's a group that was started by Jared Nobles. It's a group where you have Black corporate partnership professionals, both from a sales side, agency side, that all come together and really try to help one another out with just having a community where we can discuss opportunities, discuss new trends, just having a community where you're able to have that sounding board and network with one another. When you think about corporate partnerships within the sports and entertainment industry, that is kind of like the upper echelon job, right? Like you go to ticketing, ultimately you soon want to be in corporate partnerships at some point. And so I think that it's a very difficult field to get in, or a very difficult part of the business to get into. And
Yeah.
so being able to speak to like-minded individuals, I think that it just really opens up a lot of opportunity and gets other young talent the opportunity to put their hat in the ring.
Yeah. And what advice would you maybe give to other, whether it be businesses, peers in the industry, and I guess just the industry in general, as to what they could potentially be doing to really improve, DE&I in their businesses and across the board as well?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like there's a part of me that feels I go against the grain when it comes to this question, right? I think one of the big things is once I came onto the sports and entertainment industry, because it's small, it's hard to get into. There's only, there's 4 to 5 schools that we all know that people come from, or there's paths that everybody typically goes. Um, and often you will hear some of the executives, older executives, say things like, "This is the standard. This is the standard. The standard. This is the standard." And it's not. There's no such thing as the standard. It's a standard. You have to remove just that thought process of only seeing things one way, because what it does is it just builds a path to get more of the same, because everybody's trying to fit within this standard. It's better to say a standard because that standard is okay. But there's other standards that can coexist as well. And if we're not going to take time to be open to that, then we're going to continue to kind of do things the way they've always been done.
Really interesting, man. Really interesting. I think it's very easy to get caught up in a process that's maybe always worked. But certain things will always work to a certain point, and then there comes a time where things need to evolve and change and adapt. And to your point, it's not looking at what's always worked and continuing to do that, but starting to think differently about. This doesn't just apply to D&O, right? This applies across the board. What can we be doing to evolve and continue to evolve as an industry? On the, I guess, the flip side to that, and the contrary, what advice would you kind of give to anyone out there, people that are from ethnic minorities, backgrounds where maybe they've not got those, opportunities to be able to, go to one of those top 5 universities or colleges, and therefore have that easier segue into the industry, but they still have that passion, they still have that drive and the ambition of making their way into the industry?
Yeah. The first thing I'm going to say is you have to be patient. Nothing happens overnight. I can promise. I to this day, I show everybody the first email I ever sent to try to enter into the industry. And that took place like June 4th, 2016. I didn't get over to Spectra until literally June 2nd, 2018. I remember it was my birthday, but it took time. So this is coming from JP Morgan Chase, in making that transition. You would think it would be something that would happen just like that, but it doesn't, because everybody wants to do it, and the competition is serious. So you have to be patient. Then secondly, you have to be intellectually curious. Before you come in, you can't just only look at passion. You need to do your research. You need to try to start small conversations, even if it's with somebody that's just a coordinator or, just began, their career in sports. Learn what their experience is, learn how things are set up, and then you're able to kind of come in with a different perspective. You're coming in more informed. You're asking questions, right? You're asking questions that are smart, that may get that hiring manager, any individual, to think twice. Like, hey, wait a minute, this person is really doing their homework. I like their drive. I see something more than I'm passionate about sports. Because trust me, everybody says that. That's the number one thing that everybody says when trying to enter into this industry. Oh, I'm passionate about sports. Yeah, well, everybody is. What are you doing? How are you going to make a difference? How are you going to make an impact and change the industry and add value?
Nice, really like it. Well, there you go, guys. There's a lot there to take from what Sean's spoken about, and just me with the outreaches that I get on LinkedIn, and people trying to use Foresight Farms, if you like, as a segue to try and get into the industry and make their way, and kind of venture out from there. Be patient, have that persistence. Passion is only going to get you to a certain point, but make sure that you've got more of a reason as to why you're looking to get into the industry. And intellectually curious is the phrase I think Sean used. So certainly lead with that. Nice, Sean. Really appreciate that. Some great advice there for everyone listening. Moving on to the final part of the conversation, the hot seat, my personal favorite. Gonna kick off with some quick fire would you rather type questions, and we'll dive straight into it. So kicking off with basketball or football?
Football.
Nice. Brooklyn or Manhattan?
Brooklyn.
Sales or marketing?
Ooh. What kind of sales?
Let's go partnership sales or marketing.
I'll go partnership sales.
Nice. Steph Curry or LeBron James?
Steph.
Private yacht or a private jet?
What city is the private yacht in?
Any city you want it to be in.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the yacht.
Qualification, guys. That's the key there. Qualifying.
Yeah.
Nice. Last question. Forsyth Barnes or anyone else?
Of course, Foresight Barnes.
Love it, man. Sean, really, really appreciate you joining us, man. Enjoyed the conversation. I think there's a lot that people can take from that. And for anyone listening and is interested in finding out more about Sean and some of the initiatives that he's involved in, please feel free to reach out. He'll be tagged in this post once everything goes live. And yeah, like I said, thanks for joining us.